Blue Jackets, Maple Leafs. What a series this one should be. Both teams come in, 70 games played, 81 points. Series tied this season between the two at 1 apiece. And my first thoughts are this: defensive powerhouse in Columbus, one of the best decors in the league this season, versus offensive powerhouse in Juggernaut. You got Tavares, you got Matthews, Marner. The list goes on for the offensive scores on this Toronto Maple Leafs facing off. How will they fare? Toronto, 3.39 goals for per game this season, was third best in the league. Their 3.17 goals allowed, though, came in at rank 26th in the league. Meanwhile, Columbus, a team that struggled all season to score goals, 2.57 goals for per game, ranked 28th worst in the league versus their 2.61 goals allowed per game, which was 4th best in the NHL. No doubt about it, it's going to be interesting to see if this Blue Jackets struggling offense can put up goals against a, well, bottom of the pack Toronto Maple Leafs defense. But I think the bigger story here for both teams is not as much what's on paper, not as much what's happened in the past couple months, but it is the injuries. We've talked about the Blue Jackets on multiple occasions now. A lot of key players who look poised to miss the rest of the season. The Seth Joneses, the Oliver Yorkstrands, and even now Josh Anderson's possibly gonna return. Anderson here, I think, is gonna be the ultimate beneficiary of the NHL dragging their feet on bringing the season back as quickly as possible, because the longer they wait, say they bring it back when you know baseball is trying to bring back July 1st, say they bring it back then you're talking about a month less time for Josh Anderson to recover. But because right now they're talking about a season that or a postseason that's not going to start until end of July, early August at the earliest, most likely here, because they're saying mid-July, maybe early July if they're lucky. Training camp will resume. So you look at that and say Josh Anderson down 4 to 6 months due to injuring that shoulder earlier this season. That was March. You talk March, you talk April, you talk May, you talk June. That is 4 almost full months. You throw in July, that's a 5th. You're talking, you start the end of July, end of August, you're right smack in the middle of that 4 to 6 month timetable. How quickly he heals, we will not know, but we are talking, it is very, very likely the Blue Jackets bring in another big forward for this team in Josh Anderson. But hey, we can talk about these Blue Jackets. The Leafs, they're feeling just like the Blue Jacket fans are right now, though. Morgan Riley goes down in January with a knee injury. He finally did return to action for 1 game before the season was suspended, but you have to wonder the position the Maple Leafs were in the standings. They was looking, you know, possibly, really, they were 3 points out from falling down to a wild card spot and potentially out of it. Florida at 78, you know, Toronto 81. You had to think there was a sense of urgency to bring back Morgan Riley and get this team on the winning ways going into postseason. You wonder if he came back a little early, if he did, if he didn't. Doesn't matter now. End of the day, he's got months on months to heal and recover, come back 100%. Not to mention, you got Jake Muzzin, same story here with that broken hand. Plenty of time for Jake Muzzin. He should be ready to go. So 2 of the Maple Leafs' best defensemen are expected to be back and healthy for this playoff series. So 2 teams coming into playoffs that feel like complete opposites come in with one major thing in common, and that's feeling confident about how well they'll play with their injury-plagued rosters getting a chance to get it healthy and play once again. I do think this series comes down to 2 things, though. One is the start of the series. I mean, you look at how long both of these teams, every team for that matter, is going to go without playing. The team that jumps out to the early series lead here, I think, takes the series. If CBJ steals 1 in Toronto early, that's huge. The confidence is there. You stole 1 in Toronto, just win the home games, and you have a Maple Leafs team also who has got that doubt in their mind, probably once again thinking about 3 straight first round bounces, and the pressure is going to be mounting more and more and more for that Maple Leafs team, and it sways to the Blue Jackets' benefit. Meanwhile, Toronto jumps out to an early, you know, 1-0 lead, 2-0 lead. One of 2 things will happen for Columbus, I think. First, you're going to say, well, no goals are scored. No goals are scored, and that's going to be something tough to overcome. Droughts, you know, they're a little bit longer than 1 to 2 games. You're talking about an entire series. They're going to struggle to probably score goals, which is something that is obviously not going to help this team win games, or the series for that matter. Big negative for them. And then there's the second thing. They give up, you know, 3, 4, 5 goals consistently, or more for that matter, in those first couple games. You start to play the game of goalie musical chairs, because don't forget, Merzlikins, Korpisalo both had some very bright spots during this season, and it's easy to pull the trigger on one and go to the other and say, look how great he played. We'll change things up a little bit. And hey, it's worked in the past for a lot of teams. You know, we've seen it with the Murray Fleury, we've seen it with the Holtby, Grubauer that one season. That was the Blue Jackets know all about that one. But the chances of overcoming that deficit now, it seems like too much to me if you're the Blue Jackets team. And for that matter, that will without a doubt be the second factor of this series, the goaltending. How well does each team play? I mean, Freddie has to be one of the most underappreciated goalies in the league. Fun fact, over the past 5 seasons, Boston fans, close your ears. You're not going to like hearing this one. Tuukka Rask has a .917 save percentage with a 2.36 goals against average. Do not get me wrong. Tuukka Rask is a great goaltender, but it often can be overshadowed or easily to go out and point out Tuukka Rask's great numbers because the defense in front of him is very good. And we bring that up because Frederik Andersen, over that exact amount of time as well, the last 5 seasons, has a .916 save percentage. Not a 2.36 goals against though, but a 2.71. The difference, without a doubt, it's the defense and the amount of shots Freddie sees in a game. Freddie has been near the top of the list in shots seen per game for years now, and he has done an excellent job of keeping the Leafs in games. But because his defense isn't as stellar as a team like Boston's, because he sees more shots that results in a higher goals against average, he doesn't get the same respect. And let me tell you what, you better respect this man because he's an excellent goaltender, and there's no question about it. This Maple Leafs offense is really good, but they are going to ride or die on Frederik Andersen, keeping these scores down, keeping these teams in games. Scoring gets more difficult in playoffs. There's no secret about it. And Freddie Andersen is going to be the center point of this Maple Leafs playoff push, I think, here. The paper game favors CBJ, I think. I think this team is built for a defensive slugfest that we have seen be very successful for teams in the past during playoffs. Columbus, a team that finds a way to grind across goals. Their play style can help them make a run through playoffs. But again, it will be on the goaltending. Who starts and how do they do? This team can keep games low scoring with solid goaltending, I think, here. It doesn't even have to be dominant. But if we see Corby or Elvis come in and allow a softy or two, and you force this offense to come up with 4 or 5 goals in a game, I don't think they stand a chance against these Maple Leafs. But if you keep these Leafs around 2, 3, or fewer goals a game, this series heavily favors the Blue Jackets, I think, here. Those are just my thoughts, though. Would love to hear you guys. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.